Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Celtic Guardian deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an extremely nostalgic deck that easily controls a board with all sorts of amazing trap cards I've included in this build for you guys. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like in your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Celtic Guardian. This card is an extremely old school card that's just awesome to be able to build a deck around, and definitely give us a like for this one guys because they're all LOB original prints, which is amazing. We then play 3 copies of Celtic Guard of Noble Arms. This card is what makes the deck work so well. This card is absolutely insane because it has the ability it cannot attack while you have any cards in your hand. And once per turn, you can special summon 1 Celtic Guard monster from your hand, which is great to help you just swarm the field with your Celtic Guardian cards. It also has the ability when this attacking card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can draw cards equal to the number of Celtic Guard monsters that you control, which is a really cool ability for this card to have, just to help you draw additional cards. This card helps you dig into the deck for more trap cards so you can control the board, while also coming out at 2100 attack points, which is actually a really big summon. We then play a single copy of Obnoxious Celtic Guard. This card is great as a 1-up in the deck, but you only need a single copy in this build. But this card is a great defensive card because this card is not destroyed as a result of battle when this card battles a monster with an attack of 1900 or more, which is really cool about this card because it takes a monster with just a certain amount of attack points to be able to deal with this card, and if your opponent doesn't have it and they put monsters on the field that are too big, you can defend yourself really easily with Obnoxious Celtic Guardian. We then play 3 copies of Barrier Statue of the Drought. This card is really cool to be able to play as a 3-up because any barrier statue is going to lock down your opponent. But this card is really good right now because it has the ability that no monsters can be special summoned except earth monsters, which is totally fine because that's pretty much all we're playing anyways, except for some monsters in the extract, but we can just play with the main deck with this build. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Rhoda. Rhoda is really important in the deck as a 1-up to be able to get to your copies of your Celtic Guardians. This is a really awesome card in the deck. We then play a single copy of Double or Nothing. Double or Nothing is really helpful in this build because you can make your copy of Utopia Double, then detach a material from Utopia Double, search Double or Nothing, put a copy of Utopia on top of Utopia Double. It comes out at 5,000 attack points, then swing into your opponent with your copy of Utopia at 5,000 attack points, use its ability to negate its attack, draw below Double or Nothing, and then attack again for 10,000 attack points. The only downside is your copy of Utopia cannot attack directly, but it's still a 10,000 attack point monster that's usually going to OTK your opponent if they have a monster on the field that has 2,000 or less attack points that's in attack position. We then play 2 copies of Heritage of the Chalice. Heritage of the Chalice is really good as a 2-up in the build because this card has the ability to add a Noble Knight monster or a Noble Arms card from your deck or graveyard to your hand, meaning you can add a Noble Arms copy of your Celtic Guardian from your deck to your hand, which is super cool to be able to use this card basically as additional copies of Rhoda. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Pot of Prosperity is really good in this deck, just to help you dig into the deck to get the exact cards that you need, because on the first turn you're not worried about damage anyways, and you don't need everything in the extract, and this card is just super helpful just to dig into the deck to get to the exact card that you need. You can also play Pot of Extravagance if you want to, instead of this card, so you get a draw 2 instead of just digging for 6 and being able to draw additional cards. We then play 3 copies of Scapegoat. Scapegoat is amazing in this deck because it does summon out earth tokens to your side of the field, which is amazing to be able to do, because this card has the ability to special summon 4 sheep tokens to your side of the field that are Beast, Earth, Level 1, Attack 0, Defense 0, and Defense Solution, and these tokens cannot be attributed for a tribute summon, and you cannot summon other monsters the turn you activate this card, but you can normal set. But if you set this card to your side of the field and activate it during your opponent's end phase, you can then link summon during your following turn, getting you some really awesome plays. This card is amazing in the deck as a 3-of. We then play 3 copies of Moon Mirror Shield. Moon Mirror Shield is great to be able to use in this deck because it makes it so that basically your copies of your Celtic Guardian will not be destroyed by battle, because this card will always make your copy of Celtic Guardian have 100 more attack points than the monster that it's battling, which is just absolutely crazy about this card. This card is a really powerful card to be able to use with your copy of the Barrier Statue of the Drought as well, because it'll give you a little bit of protection for that card, so your opponent's going to have a tough time outing it. But this card is such an awesome card in the deck to be able to equip to basically any of your monsters, so it's really hard for your opponent to destroy them by battle. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start off with 2 copies of Ice Dragon's Prison. Ice Dragon's Prison is really good as a 2-of in the build because this card helps you just out your opponent's cards and has it to target one monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it to your field. But its effects are negated. Then you can banish one monster from both players' fields that have this same type as each other, and you can only activate one of this card per turn, but that's a really good effect to basically use this card as a Monster Reborn to take one of your opponent's monsters out of their graveyard and use it against them, which is really fun to be able to do to basically go in for game. But this card is also great because if your opponent's playing just like Fiend monsters, you can just out 2 cards at the same time. We then play 3 copies of Compulsory Evacuation Device. This card is great to bounce your opponent's first normal summon, and it works really well when you have your Barrier Statue on your side of the field, because if your opponent normal summons something to their side of the field to deal with the Barrier Statue, you can just bounce that one normal summon that they're going to put on the field back to their hand, and if they don't have something that's Earth that they can special summon, they're probably not going to out Barrier Statue this turn, so this card is really good to bounce cards off the field. We then play 3 copies of Storming Mirror Force. Storming Mirror Force is great to be able to use in this deck because if your opponent does attack one of your monsters, you can return all monsters that your opponent controls in attack position back to their hand, which is great to be able to do, and I love that about this card, just bouncing your opponent's monsters back to their hand. We then play 3 copies of Crackdown. Crackdown is amazing as a 3-of in this deck, because this card is just super powerful because it's like Fiendish Chain, but crazy. Because it lets you activate this card by targeting one face-up monster that your opponent controls and take control of that monster, which is amazing because then you can use it as link material, which is just really, really cool. Because while you control that monster, it can attack or activate its effects, and when that monster leaves the field, destroy this card. But it's amazing to be able to take control of your opponent's monster and just basically keep that monster to defend your life points, or use it as link material to link climb. We then play 3 copies of Solemn Strike. Solemn Strike is really good at basically just saying no to whatever you need to say no to, and this card helps out a lot because when a monster would be special summoned or a monster effect is activated, pay 15 or life points to negate the summon or activation to destroy that card. And then finally for the main deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. Solemn Judgment says no to anything just about, and this card is a definite 3-of in the deck to be able to combine with all your other trap cards, just easily control the board, and it's an amazing card to play in this deck as a 3-of. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start with a single copy of Bagooska. Bagooska is really good at locking down the field, which is why we play this card as a 1-of in the deck, just in case we need to slow down the game. We then play a single copy of number 39, Utopia Double. Utopia Double is amazing in this deck because you can summon this card out to your side of the field by just using any 2 level 4s. You then detach a material from this card, add double or nothing from deck to hand, then put a copy of Utopia on top of your copy of Utopia Double. Your Utopia will come out at 5,000 attack points. You then attack into any monster opponent controls, use Utopia's ability to detach a material to negate its attack, and then drop double or nothing to attack again for 10,000 attack points, which usually is going to OTK your opponent if they have anything in attack position that has less than 2,000 attack points, and they're at a perfect 8,000. We then play a single copy of Typhon. Typhon is a really good addition to this deck because it's so easy to summon to your side of the field and basically on top of anything. If your opponent summons more than 2 monsters from the extra deck during this turn or during the turn previous, which is just so cool about this card. We then play a single copy of Double A Zeus. Double A Zeus is great to be able to use as a board wipe, and it's just a really good card to be able to use in this deck. We then play a single copy of Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax. You can climb into this card every so often, and it's just a good option overall, especially if you use your copy of IP Masquerena to be able to make this card. It makes it so this card is basically immortal. We then play a single copy of Access Code. Access Code's great to be able to make in this deck because it pops multiple cards on the field, and it comes out absolutely massive. We then play a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn. Terverion to spin stuff, 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix to pop spells and traps. I play a single copy of Asa the Earth Charmer. This card is great to be able to use in the deck to basically bring back Earth monsters from the graveyard, to be able to link climb, and it's just a really good card overall. Play a single copy of SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight is insane in this deck because it's a double interruption, and combined with all the trap cards in this build, this card can get absolutely out of hand for your opponent, and it's a really good card to be able to play in the deck. But if you don't have SP Little Knight, you can change it out for Nightmare Cerberus for a more budget option. But this card is amazing because it's a double interruption, and you can use this card every single turn. We then play a single copy of Mrs. Radiant. Mrs. Radiant is great to be able to use with your Scapegoat tokens because they are Earth, so you can use your copies of your Scapegoat tokens to make this card, which is amazing. Plus, it makes your copies of your Celtic Guardians go up by 500 attack points, which is really good. We then play a single copy of IP Masquerena. IP plus your copy of Mrs. Radiant will help you step into a copy of Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax, which is amazing to be able to do in this deck, being able to use your Scapegoat tokens to step into it, which is just super cool. We then play a single copy of Link Spider. Link Spider is just really good in the deck if you open up like 2 copies of Celtic Guardian and you want to link climb into something. And then finally play a single copy of Link Rebo, which can also work with our Scapegoat tokens. And this card is overall fantastic in the deck to be able to make with the Scapegoat tokens because it'll give you protection from an attack if you don't already have Moon Mirror Shield. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played a Celtic Guardian deck before, you should definitely give this deck a try. It's amazing how easy it is to play, and it's crazy how awesome it is to be able to control the board with all sorts of awesome trap cards, and it's super fun to be able to play an old school vanilla monster and make it a really fun deck. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.